Recording's all going. All right. So yeah, welcome everybody. Really happy to be here. Some of you may know me. I do these once a month with the Camino Women crew. Some of you may not know me from Patches or from wherever it may be. But my name is Rowan. I specialize in training hikers for their adventures. And today we're talking a little bit about preparing for a level two trip. So essentially, the way I usually run these is I've got a little bit of presentation. I love my sort of PowerPoint slides, so I'll be taking you through that, talking through a few bits and pieces, and hopefully it'll give you some really good good info to kind of get started with this type of thing. As we sort of said, like this is one's going to be a little bit shorter on my end today, so I'm not going to be doing all the talking. So I'm going to zip through my stuff relatively quickly, and then we'll move into everything else. So let me share my screen and I'll pull up my presentation and we can get into it all. So yeah, quick little introduction. As I said, my name is Rowan Smith. What I do all day, every day is I help hikers prepare for their adventures. So essentially, I run a business called Summit Strength. We do online personal training for hiking, and literally my full-time job is helping people for their adventures. Typically, we help hikers in three big situations. Number one, people who have a big trip in their sights. They've got something booked in. They're like, well, not 100% sure if I'm going to be quite ready. And we help them do everything they can to make sure that's a success. Number two, we work with a lot of hikers who do struggle with some type of ache or pain. So knee pain, hip pain, foot pain, ankle pain, very common for hikers. And we help a lot of people overcome those things. And we also work with a lot of regular hikers who may not have a big trip in their sights, may not have a bit of ache or pain, but they just realize, look, I struggle on the trail a little bit. I kind of want to be a bit more in control of things. And we help them with that. Now, I personally trained and prepared over 400 hikers for every trip imaginable. And it's some of my bread and butter and something I absolutely love to do. Now, essentially today we are specifically talking about preparing for a level two trip. So we're going to, this might be something the Central Laos trip for Camino Women, and the Vietnam rural villages, Rwanda, Uganda, guerrilla trekking, Japan's ancient pathways. Hope that's all. They're on level two. I just pulled them off your website. And a few other bits and pieces. Now, essentially how I'm going to be approaching this today, because some people who have been with Camino Women, they've seen me do a dozen of these presentations before. I don't want to cover too many of the same things. However, I'm very much aware that a lot of people here are new. So how we're going to be approaching this is I'm going to be giving you a bit of an overview around a range of things that can help. And essentially how we're going to be breaking things down is we're going to be talking about three different, what I call layers of preparation, and essentially different levels of preparation you can do to ensure at the very top level, a successful trip, at the next layer, a safe trip, and the next layer, an enjoyable trip. And basically, if you do all the things I say today, hopefully we can ensure a safe, enjoyable, and successful trip. I'm going to be going through all of that. Now, most of the things today, just because I'm not going to be talking for the full 45 minutes, it's going to be a little bit shorter. I'm going to be doing a bit more of an overview of things today as opposed to kind of getting into specifics. But for each of the topics that I share, I'm going to share some deeper resources, which I'll get sent out to people afterwards where you can kind of actually learn how to apply these things for yourself. So, first of all, top layer, how to ensure a successful trip. This is kind of at the top level, almost the bare minimum that we want to achieve when we're talking about training for hiking. Because if we're going on a trip, we want to give ourselves the best chance of getting through end to end. We don't want to have to get to the point where 2 days in, 3 days in, we're like, you know what, that's enough for me. It does happen a lot. It is very common. And we want to make sure that we're actually confident we can complete it all. As a bare minimum, this is kind of what we want to be hitting. And we want to be confident that we can do this. Now, the main priority for this, and there's lots of different things you can do for preparation, but this is talking about the bare minimum and the most important thing you want to be able to do before you go is ensuring that you can comfortably and confidently complete what we call our maximum metrics before you leave for your trip. So what I mean by that, a metrics is essentially the specifics that you need to prepare for your trip. And metrics in this context is the longest day that you have to spend hiking and your maximal pack weight. So essentially before you go, you want to be confident that you can do those two things before you step on the plane or whatever it may be. So in level two trips, when we're looking at least the Camino Women specifically, level two tends to line up for 3 to 4 hours worth of hiking with a day pack. So that might be 4 kilos, 5 kilos, 6 kilos in your pack, depending on how much you're popping in there. So before you go, you want to be confident that you can do that, at least on a day hike. That's kind of your bare minimum before you go. Ultimately, even though you are going out on a trip where it may be 3 or 4 or 5 or however many days in a row where you're doing multiple days of this is kind of the benchmark that I get my hikers to hit. If we can do these two things as a day hike before you go, we can be pretty confident you're going to be in a good position. Typically, what I recommend is try to schedule in a day hike of the equivalent of these two things. So 4 hour hike with a 5, 6, 7 kilo pack, whatever it may be, about 2 weeks before you go on your trip. You don't have to be able to do this 6 weeks or 8 weeks or 12 weeks before you go away. You don't have to do this before you actually book your trip. But typically you want to be confident you can do this 2 weeks before your trip. And that's kind of what we want to build up to in our training. Now, to give you a quick rundown, as I said, I'm not going to go into the details of this, but I'm going to give you a quick example of kind of how this may look of you building up to this in a second. It may be a little bit text heavy and you might look at it and be like, oh my gosh, that's a little bit much. But it's just a very quick example, and I will share a resource where you can actually figure this out for yourself. So just giving you a warning before I get into the next slide. So what I typically say is with this type of thing, you take your longest hike, you take your heaviest hike, you schedule that in 2 weeks before you go, and then essentially just get out your calendar and just work backwards and essentially come up with a rough plan from now until your trip on how you can safely but surely build up to that distance. So to give you a rough example here, and as I said, this is a little bit text heavy, but I didn't format it very well, but you can sort of work your way here. This is an example of 12 weeks before you have your trip. In this example, level 2 trip, we're getting ready for a 4 hour hike with a 5 kilo pack. 2 weeks before we head off, week 10, this is our longest hike, 4 hour hike with a 5 kilo pack. That's the last thing we need to hit. And if we hit that, we can pretty confident we can go away. In this situation, I looked at my calendar and I was like, you know what? I feel like I can hike maybe once every 2 weeks leading up to the trip. So essentially what I've done is I've just gone backwards and just worked up slowly but surely building up. So the 2 weeks before that, 3 hour hike with a 5 kilo pack. 2 weeks before that, 4 hour hike with a 4 kilo pack, and slowly but surely. Now there's a dozen different ways you can kind of build up to hikes like this, but you can kind of see it just logically builds up and builds up and builds up. And in the weeks that I can't actually hike, I just fit in a little short walk with my pack weight, get a little bit of exposure. As I said, very quick example. If you did want a little bit more of a detailed way of how to put this together for yourself to work around your situation, your life, actually learn how to do this. I have a little blog, little video, which kind of goes into this. I'll share the link in the chat once I'm done talking and I'll share it with you. But basically this goes into this topic a little bit more detail. You can check it out. So first of all, that is the most important thing we want to hit. If you're going to do absolutely nothing else in your preparations, that's the main thing. Just making sure you're confident you can hit those numbers before you head out and hike. Now, coming to the next layer, let's talk about ensuring a safe trip, because as much as, yes, obviously we want to get through end to end successfully, we don't want to be in this position where, you know what, it's painful, it's uncomfortable, we're putting ourselves, in dodgy situations, whatever it may be. We don't want to be in the middle of nowhere and like be getting in a tricky spot. We want to make sure we're giving ourselves the best chance of a safe trip. And obviously when we're on a tour, when we've got our guides and everything, they will be looking after you. But we also want to look after ourselves. And one of the most common reasons for getting into trouble on a trip, whether it is just being uncomfortable or actually having to bail out on a trip and, get a step off, is pain, injury, and accidents. Pain might just be knee pain or foot pain, just gets a little bit worse each day. Injury may be, rolling your ankle or twisting your knee or something like that. Accidents could just be you're really tired, you're just struggling at the end of the day, and you had a trip and a fall and tumble down something. I've done that myself when I was on Kokoda and I got really tired and literally fell off a cliff. And I was like, whoa, that's not good. So we want to make sure we're trying to avoid it. So one of the most significant things you can do to reduce the risk of pain and injury is doing a little bit of strength training in your week. Now, strength training is a really fantastic method of training to directly reduce the risk of pain and injury when we're doing exercise. There's a lot of evidence to show that a little bit of strength training can reduce the risk of all of that. Strength training can play a big role in reducing fatigue when we're on the trails, making sure we're not quite as tired, our muscles don't get quite as sore, all of this. Can directly improve our stability and balance so we can feel a little bit more stable in different situations, and also has a bunch of other benefits for hiking in a bunch of different ways. So strength training is something I'm a big advocate for, something I'd really recommend towards. However, a lot of hikers, when they hear me talking about strength training for the start, they kind of envision going down the local gym and training like a bodybuilder, going out doing lots and lots of exercises and lifting heavy weights and all of this. Or maybe going down the gym and doing like circuit training HIIT classes where we're jumping around and, getting really sweaty and that. And, some people enjoy that type of training and if it works for you, great. But in all honesty, for hikers, it's not particularly necessary. You can do much, much, much more honed in training and get really, really good results with much less effort, much less time, and literally never even having to step into a gym if you just do the right things. Now, ultimately, when it comes down to strength training, for a lot of my hikers, a lot of hikers don't like strength training, which is absolutely fair enough. And a lot of my hikers will literally only do 15, 20, 30-minute sessions twice a week. But if you do the right things with this leading into your preparation, if you can be consistent with this leading into preparation, you can really see some dramatic results. It may not sound like a huge amount, but it can really be a great investment. If you're leading into a level 2 trip or really any type of hiking adventure, this is just definitely something I would strongly recommend getting in because it just can be so, so, so good as a payoff. Now, if you're not quite sure on how to get started with this and you're like, I don't really want to go down the gym or, I don't want to do these workouts at final line or whatever it may be, I do have something which can get you started on this. As I said, for each of these things, I'm going to share a free resource. Essentially, I have a little mini course around getting started with strength training for hiking. This course kind of explores the subject in a little bit of detail. It talks through some more benefits of strength training for hikers. So beyond what I just talked about there, but a few other things. It talks about the principles of effective strength training. So when you're actually putting the time to this, how to get the most out of this type of thing. But most importantly, it actually teaches you how to create your own strength workouts. So you can follow the instructions, follow the templates to create some really, really simple but effective workouts that you can do at home, outdoors, or in the gym if you prefer. To sign up, there's a link here. Again, once I'm done talking, I'll share these links over and you can check it out. Next up, so that's successful, that is safe. Let's talk about an enjoyable trip because in all honesty, if you're spending all this time, this effort, this money to go out on a trip, we want to make sure we're having a good time. We want to make sure we're getting out on the trail, that we feel fresh, that we feel excited, that we're waking up in the morning and we're like, yeah, I'm ready to roll. And it's not just like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it's another day. And we want to make sure we're doing what we can to be in a good position. Now, everyone is going to be a little bit different here because there's a lot of different factors that can go into this. Everyone's an individual, which will have different situations they struggle with. Obviously, everyone may be on different trips where there's different particular things you need to get ready for, whether it's heat, whether it's carrying a slightly heavier pack, whether it's rough terrain or whatever it may be. But there are two things that are very, very common across the board, which I'm going to cover, which I talk about with hikers pretty much every single week. First and foremost is breathing and comfort on inclines. This is something that a lot of people hate. It's not very enjoyable, and this, you can make a big difference here. And then number two, that often catches people up is squat toilets, which often doesn't get talked about, but definitely something to kind of consider. On the breathing side of things, just getting out of breath and exhausted on inclines is really, really common. And it definitely is one way to really suck the enjoyment out of the day, where you're just constantly huffing and puffing, you're constantly tired, you're getting self-conscious, you're falling behind the pack. I've done it, everyone's done it, it's just not much fun. But with a small amount of time and attention in your training, you can make a pretty big change to this. You can feel much, much more in control in your breathing. So while, your breathing may be quicker, it doesn't kind of get carried away and just get really uncomfortable. You can feel stronger in your legs and not having to burn out really quickly on the way up or get that jelly leg feeling, which is nasty. And you can get to the top feeling much more fresh and be like, you know what, that was tough, but I'm feeling pretty good. I'm ready to roll. And if you get to the top and you're feeling a bit more fresh, you're probably going to wake up in the mornings and have less, what we call negative consequences, less sore legs, less fatigue, whatever it may be. So a little bit of time and attention can really go a long way. Now, at the very, 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 very basic level, you can literally just improve this by practicing a little bit of incline in your week and a little bit of incline in your training. So depending on what you have access to, it might involve finding a hill, set of stairs, a small like box or a step, or a stairmaster or a stair climber if you go down the gym, and literally just practicing timing, putting the timer on for 15, 20 minutes and just go up and down for an extended period of time. Without getting any more complicated than that, that can actually go really, really a long way. And if you're consistent with it, it can make a big difference. However, obviously with any type of training, we can probably get better than this. Instead of just going out and doing hills, there's different levels where we can get a little bit better, a little bit better, a little bit better. And if you do want to upgrade this type of training, I do have another freebie for you, which I literally just released today. So it's a brand new thing. Basically, I've got another mini course about improving breathing and performance when hiking up hills. Now, this particular mini course basically covers some really, really simple drills that absolutely anyone can do, and they're kind of like mini workouts almost, um, which can both improve your breathing specifically, but also double up as really good training sessions just to help you with these types of inclines. Now, in this course, it basically charts out not only these exercises and these drills, but a really simple 12-week plan where you can kind of go through step by step by step, improve your fitness, improve your endurance, improve your breathing. It's very, very simple, very accessible for everyone. You don't have to buy anything or anything like that. But yeah, it could be a great resource. Essentially, if you want to sign up, again, there's a link here. I'll share it in the chat once I'm done talking, but that could be a nice resource as well. Now, moving on, let's talk about squat toilets. How am I on for time? Yep, cool. I'm going to zip through this, and I should be on time. So yeah, let's talk about squat toilets. This is something, if you are going to be preparing for this, probably something you want to prepare for, because a lot of people just don't consider this, don't think about it, but it's definitely something to keep in mind if you've got this ahead. Because ask yourself, like, if you are leading into a trip with this, like, when is the last time you did actually hold this position and just hang out there? Because, it may have been a little while. Then imagine yourself, doing this when, you know what, your legs are tired. You just climbed up a hill and you're like, you know what, my legs are burning, my legs are tired. Or maybe it's day 3 and you're like, oh my God, things are sore. You know what, it's definitely something worthwhile considering. And in all honesty, this is one thing that I often hear from people that is just like, I didn't think about it. I didn't, consider it, but it really was a bit of a negative thing and it stressed me out a little bit and, it wasn't much fun. So it's something with a really, really simple, small amount of training that can actually make a bit of a difference. Even just doing that strength training I mentioned before, 10, 20, 30 minutes at a time, that itself, if you're just doing general strength training, will probably make a bit of a difference here. But beyond this, a couple of simple real mobility exercises you do in the week can actually be really, really useful. Now, this stuff doesn't have to be too complicated, but it's very similar to just practicing this position. So this is an exercise I get a lot of my hikers to do. Even people who aren't doing squat or toilets, this is just a nice one for the hip mobility and improving flexibility through the hips, because a lot of us are pretty tight there. This is essentially just holding a bottom position, where we're basically holding onto like a pole or a door or something like that, and literally just hanging out here, pushing our knees out and just holding this position. It may be really difficult for some people, and if so, this is something we probably want to practice. You may be able to sit here all day, and if so, then you probably don't really need to practice it. That just in itself can be a really useful mobility exercise, definitely worthwhile playing around. If you've done this for a little while, you want to have a bit more of a challenge. The next level to this, again, that I get a lot of my hikers to do, whether they're using squat toilets or not, is doing something like this. Just a little bit more difficult, but you can build to it. This is what we call like a squat to stand, where basically we're just going for a bit more of an active movement. We're in this bottom squat position, which is a little bit hard to hold, but then pop up and we get a little bit of stretch to the hamstrings. I use this for a lot of hikers, and my hikers who spend a lot of days sitting, quite useful. A lot of my hikers who struggle with a little bit of back pain, this can be a good stretch through a few different areas, and then also on the squat toilets as well. Now, actually applying this can be very, very, very simple. You can just fit this in where you can through the week. I like to use them in my warm-ups for my hikers. So when they're doing training sessions, before they're doing some hills or before they're doing this, even if they're just waiting at the trailhead before they actually start hiking, can be quite useful, or you can literally just fit in wherever you want through the day. I would typically start with that bottom squat, start with like 15, 30 seconds at a time if that's kind of doable. Some people can only do like 5 or 10 seconds at a time. That's fine. Start where you can. And then just week by week by week, add an extra 5 seconds and build up to like 90 or 120 seconds, like a couple of minutes. If you get to a couple of minutes, you're like, hey, this is pretty doable, then maybe build up to that squat to stand. It's not 100% essential, but it can be a nice thing to explore for some people. Very, very simple, but purely just doing 1 or 2 of those things can actually make a massive difference in that type of situation. So just wrapping things up of kind of what I covered today, those 3 different layers of things, to ensure a safe, enjoyable, and successful trip. Create a hiking training plan. Make sure you're going to hit that maximal metrics just before you head off, and then work backwards. Make sure you have a slow and steady build up from there. Incorporate a little bit of strength training into your week. In small amounts can go a really long way. Practice some incline, somewhere in your training, ideally once a week or once every couple of weeks or something like that, and probably do a little bit of mobility stuff as well. If you can kind of put a little bits and pieces in that, even if it's just only small portions of the strength, the incline, and the squats, and then just hiking where you can, that itself can really take you a long, long, long way. Now, with all of that, as I said, this has been a pretty quick rundown, pretty quick overview because I didn't want to go too much over time. I fully understand, if you do look at all this, you're like, okay, Rowan, cool. that makes sense, but like I don't know how to do this. I watched the courses. I don't know how to put this together or whatever it may be. If you did need help with your preparations or your training, as I always say at the end of these presentations, I would love to chat with you. What I do through Summit Strength is I offer personalized online training programs for hikers, help them get fit, strong, and resilient for their adventures. What our packages include is typically we will create a custom and personalized workout program to get you ready for anything the trail may already throw at you, covering the strength training, covering the cardio, covering the hiking, covering the mobility, making sure that fits around your life. I put a big emphasis into educating you on the peripheral factors that can make or break an adventure. We didn't talk about today, but nutrition, recovery, self-care, mental strength all play a pretty big role. And also give you the coaching and support and accountability to keep you on track. Now, if you did want to check this out and just learn a little bit about what we do and see if it may be right for you, you can go to summitstrength.com.au/online. Again, I'll share this in the chat once I'm done talking. On that page, there's a bit of a video which talks through what we do, how we go about things, and if it was something you want to explore, you can book a free call with our team. We can have a bit of a chat and see if and how it may be right for you. So with that being said, that is the end of my portion of this. I was talking pretty quickly, but I think I got through it all okay. So if anyone does have any questions of any of this stuff that I covered, feel free to plug it in chat, whether I covered today or I can cover it later on, or whatever it may be. But hopefully that was useful and hopefully that gives a little bit of insight there. So that being said, I'm going to hand it over to Sophie now, and she's going to take the reins.
Sure am. Thank you, Rowan. That was so helpful. I really appreciate it. I always appreciate your input, and every time I have a webinar with you, I always wake up very motivated the next morning. All right. Now, can everyone see my screen? Can anyone see it? Pippa, can you see? Yeah, perfect. Thanks, Pip. All right. Well, for anybody who hasn't met me before, I am one of the booking managers for Camino Women, alongside Pippa as well, who's in this chat. And today, I just want to talk about, level 2 trips with Camino Women, what they mean in this. Patch Adventures, of course, have level 2, and it is a little bit different. So if you are thinking about going on your first multi-day hiking trip, if it's been a little while since you have done a hike, if you're just traveling solo for the first time, anything like that, then level 2 is a really great entryway to those trips. Rowan mentioned at the beginning, we have quite a few options for level 2, but as you can see here, I would say that the Soum Son Trail in Laos is our Goldilocks of level 2 treks. It's just perfect. All right. So I'd say the reason for that is that it's a great choice for a gentle but fulfilling adventure. It's close to home, so not too far from Australia or New Zealand. It's super affordable once you arrive there. And honestly, the locals are the kindest people I've ever met. So a gentle introduction to a different culture without the chaos. So it's really the first perfect step. So what can you expect? So on a level 2 trip, you can essentially expect to be walking between 4 and 5 hours on a leisure day. For the actual trek, though, you could expect to be on your feet from anywhere between 8 a.m., not 5 a.m., 8 a.m. and 5 p.m. You will have regular breaks through that time, and there'll be a lot to see. So there's a lot of time just to sort of stand and observe, meeting the local people, having a wander through the markets, it may be. But yeah, for the hiking part, you can be crossing rivers and sort of through dense jungle in some kind of heat as well. So that does add a layer of complexity, if you like. But this particular trail, the Soum Son Trail, is really special because it's a community-based project. And that means that we've worked hand in hand with a local team, some of whom are here today, and the local villagers to create something that's sustainable and beautiful. The Soum Son Trail officially launched in February this year, 2025, and I was lucky enough to be there. I was there with a few ladies who I believe are in this chat as well, so I'd like to hear from them a little bit later. But we have been trekking through Laos since 2023. So we've done quite a few trips there now. So we just immediately fell in love. And we feel that Laos is the most interesting country out of all the destinations that are reasonably close to Australia. It's less developed than other places in Southeast Asia. And so we saw this as an opportunity to create something special. All right. So I don't know if Jenny's there today, but that's Jenny, the second picture in. I love that picture. I've been traveling across Southeast Asia for over 20 years, and Laos still holds some kind of magic that's just getting harder to find, ultimately. Luang Prabang especially has stayed beautifully unchanged. It's a UNESCO protected town, so development is minimal and its charm remains intact. What I do love about the Lao people is how kind and gentle and patient they are. There's no pushy selling, no hard bargaining, just genuine warmth. Tourism hasn't overrun this country either, which I think is because so many people still live quite simply. And so from the first day we all met the villagers along the Soum Son Trail. I think the ladies would agree. We felt so welcomed. They wanted to feed us, they wanted to show us how to dance and share their culture. And I guess that's just what makes this trail so special. So also, we do get the chance to meet three major ethnic groups. So we'll stay with one different group each night. We have the Lao, the Khmer, and the Hmong people. And gain a truly authentic glimpse into their everyday lives. So the communities are genuinely excited about this project, about Camino Women coming through, and they see it as a rare opportunity. So it's very meaningful to be part of something that brings long-term benefit and connection with ladies like yourself. So I would like to introduce you to Julie and Sompet. They are part of our on-ground team in Laos. Julie is originally from France, but now lives there, and from memory has lived there for 5 years. And Sompet is native to Laos. So Julie, and then Sompet, would you mind sharing a little bit about yourself and the project, what it was like to build the trail?
Sure. Hello, everyone. I could see that Stephanie is in the call today, who traveled with us last February. So hi, Stephanie. Thanks for joining, and thanks, everyone. But I think, Sophie, you've said the most important, that in Laos, the community is the most welcoming community that you could ever find. That is one of the most untouched and unspoiled country in Southeast Asia, offering beautiful nature. And traveling to Luang Prabang, which is really the pearl of Laos, that keeps its charm, is a heritage culture, and is now a UNESCO town, gives you the cultural aspect of traveling to Laos. And then traveling in the countryside and going to the Soum Son Trail gets you closer to the people and learning more in depth the culture of the ethnic groups that you will find during the trail. I will also say that we have been working so hard on this trail for the past almost 2 years, meeting with all the village chiefs, meeting with the communities, sitting together, training them on how to build homestay, on how to offer you dinners and meals, respecting food safety, on really welcoming you and sharing their culture with people coming from afar. And they are super enthusiastic to see more groups coming on the long term, and also the good impact that it will have on the long term. So I will also share now the speaking with Sompet, who has worked very hard on this trek, who has inspected, walked all the trails multiple times. We'll also be able to share a bit about his culture. Sompet, are you here? Yes. Sompet. So yes, you have walked the trail multiple times, right? Can you tell us maybe what will be the path and what we will see during the hike?
So yeah, it's thank you very much and happy to see everybody here. So we are very excited our home, especially this is like my home. So I am a Khmer tribe. So it's very nice. If you so we have been working on this Soum Son trails and everything is organized now, and we are ready to show everybody in Laos, in Luang Prabang here. And there are many things to see, especially the culture of Khmer, Hmong, and Lao. So each tribe they are living different, have their own unique. We can see
All right. Yes, I think there might have been
if it was my
internet.
connection or.
Yeah, I thought it was me as well, actually. It might have been Sompet.
Okay,
Yeah, did you?
I can go on and I can explain what we will go through. So basically this trek, you will leave from Luang Prabang and take like 1 hour cruise on the Mekong River in the morning and arrive in the first village that is specialized in, depending on the season, making local rice crackers or river weed snacks. Then you will keep trekking and arrive to a weaving village where there is a tradition of collecting cotton and transforming the cotton into thread and then dyeing it naturally and then weave the cotton into the national traditional skirt that we call the paisin in Laos. And after that, you will keep trekking up to the first village where you will stay overnight, which is a Lao Lum village. Lao Lum village means it's a lowland Lao community. Here with your guide, you will walk around the village and you will be welcomed by the families. They will offer the dinner and you will stay overnight in the village. On the second day, you will keep trekking little by little, going a little bit upper, go to Midland and meet Khmu village and Khmu families. Here you will also see the difference between Lao Lum and Khmu tradition. Their language is different, their homes are different, and through your guide, you will be able to discuss with the families, ask all your questions, and of course, on the way, you will see different types of landscapes, the rice paddies, depending on the season, what is cultivated in the farm of the villagers, and also depending on the tradition of the village, what would be their main source of income? Would it be either the weaving or would it be agriculture? On the third day, you will keep going and you will keep going a little bit up, but not that up. We managed to find a village that is not too difficult to reach. You will have a little part that will be done with the tuk-tuk to help you go through the most difficult parts, but the last part will be walking and you will arrive in a Hmong village where you will also discover the music tradition of Hmong ethnic minorities with their traditional instruments. You'll have demonstration and of course share dinner and overnight in the village. And on the last day, it will be a tuk-tuk transfer to one other village that is closer to the Mekong, that is specialized in pottery. Because as Sophie said, Luang Prabang is a UNESCO town and it used to be the capital of the Lansang Kingdom when there were kings in Laos. And this village was specialized in making the pottery for the royalty at the time of the kingdom. So you will arrive in this village, learn about the pottery tradition in Luang Prabang, and then take a boat back on the Mekong River to Luang Prabang city. So it will be 4 days and 3 nights trek. Of course, for every village that you will go to, you will have the guide. So the same guide going with you. You will also have a local guide that is here to support in any questions that you would have and that the guide would not have the answer, because sometimes it can happen. But there's always a local guide, and every fee that you will pay for this trek will go directly to the community, will go directly to support the local guide, will go directly to support the villagers and to improve their way of living, not only through welcoming you and opening their experience and their knowledge about multicultural, but also supporting their life, really.
Julie, I know what it's all about, but it still warms my heart, especially listening to you talk about it. It's just, yeah, as a team, we are just like in love with this whole project. So it's easy for us to share, right? And Sompet, sorry, we couldn't hear you so well, but it was just lovely to see you again. And yeah, you've been a massive part of creating this trail and just, yeah, big work behind the scenes. So thank you so much. I guess I want to see, I know Stephanie's here, but I think there may be other ladies who've traveled to Laos maybe in this call. If you could maybe pop your hand up if you'd like to speak. It'd be so good to hear from you what your experience was like traveling, you know, maybe as a solo woman or with some friends. what you thought to the destination, because of course the trail has changed a bit over the years, and so what Julie's talking about here is what we're planning going forward. But we've had a version of it in February. We had the first 2 days, but yeah, just more the destination, because of course it can be quite daunting traveling overseas for the first time. Laos is very much a different culture to what we're used to here in Australia or in New Zealand. So Stephanie, if you're here, or if anybody else would put their hand up, I would greatly love to hear from you. Stephanie was here. Maybe not. But if in the meantime, while we work that out, there are some reviews here that they have written. So they're all available on the Camino Women Google page. So you can have a read and have a look through all the lovely pictures that the ladies from who've traveled with us before. Hi, Stephanie. Yeah, go for it. Tell us all about your trip. You can come off mute.
Off mute. I'm off mute.
Yes.
Okay, great. I hadn't travelled for years and years and years and years, and this was the first trip I chose. I chose it because I didn't know anything about Laos, and I was very nervous about doing it on my own. Didn't know anybody else going, didn't know anybody who had been to Laos. And from the day I arrived, really, it couldn't have been better. It's a very unlike most of the Asian countries. If you've travelled in Asian countries, this is very calm. The people are actually quite reserved, but really friendly as soon as you're starting to interact with them. So there's absolutely no there's no pushing. It's your choice how much you interact with everybody, really. The guide we had, and I hope you would have too, is just amazing. He's so enthusiastic about the history, the culture, the people, the environment, the effect China is having on Laos, which is pretty big, surprisingly. He was just an absolute mine of information. We travelled a lot by boat, which was really fun. Very, very relaxing way to travel. Travel by boat and by train and a little bit by tuk-tuks, back of a ute, any old way, actually. Not much driving on the roads, which is good because they were pretty terrible. I think it's probably one of the dustiest places I have ever been. We were there in February. It was 35 degrees every day and just very, very dusty. It's a very, very poor country, so there's could be a bit of culture shock in there. Even the main city, Vientiane, is very, I don't know, not like any other city. But I would urge you, if you are even hesitating about going, just don't hesitate. It's the most amazing place. I would go back there in a heartbeat. I'm almost tempted to do this trip again because it's a different hike. We did different villages, I think, from the ones that you're doing for various reasons. But yeah, just go. You should do it.
Stephanie, you were just such a joy to travel with. So thank you so much. And thanks for your input, because of course you can see it oozing out from the team, but it means a lot from somebody who's, a like-minded traveler. So thank you so much. Did anyone have any questions maybe we can chat about, or you can post into the chat?
Sophie, it's Michelle. I'm here too, but my iPhone may not have come up.
No, it just says iPhone. Hello, iPhone.
Hi, Sophie. Hi, Steph. Hi, Sapet and Julie.
Hi, Michelle.
Hi, Stephanie.
I'll be very quick, but I just wanted to let people know I was on the tour with Steph in February, and like her, I'm busy. I met her in Vientiane when we first got there. It was just a wonderful city. I was expecting it to be very hectic, like the ladies have said, like Southeast Asia, but it was so calm. And I'm a hectic mum of 3 teenagers, and I just found it so relaxing. The tour itself, we got so looked after. I think the communication from Camino was excellent. We knew what we were doing each day. Everything was organised, and we felt safe while we were in the country, and certainly if we had any little hiccups, I even say to people, I was crossing a river and I'd be like, oh, I'm about to like stumble, and Mr. Lee, our guide, would be there to grab my hand. Like, it was unbelievable. It was almost like magic. So it was just fantastic, and the unique things you get to do in Laos. I'm like Steph, I'm really tempted to go back there. I just loved it. I just thought it was wonderful.
Oh,
And all the people, all you guys that organised it were just great. So great.
Thanks, Michelle. Oh, it was, again, you were all, the group was amazing, wasn't it? Just such a just a magical experience. I also want to go back. So yeah, thank you both for your lovely words and for being just amazing Camino women. I know we had to make some changes, but that is adventure travel and these things do happen, but you guys were just amazing to roll with. So we appreciate you so much. If there are, I've just dropped the link into the chat for the trail itself. So if you are interested in joining us on this adventure, as you can see, we'd all love to bring you along. But there's details there for myself and Pippa, the website, the email address, phone number. But yeah, please, I'd love to hear from you. Vaccinations, that's a great question. It actually very much depends on your vaccination history. So essentially, I would go to your GP. They'll advise on what they strongly advise on and maybe not so much, if you want to err more on the side of caution, and then it'll depend on your immunisation history. So just go and have a chat with your GP. And what are the accommodation set up? So for the accommodation, and I think Stephanie and Michelle would agree, the hotels were fantastic, weren't they? Yeah, they were just, it was absolutely amazing. So they're all 3 or 4 stars, as we always do. And we always make sure that they're really well located and comfortable. But these were like 5-star, to be honest. They were absolutely comfortable, lovely accommodation. And then the nights where you're in the homestay, it is very different. It's very basic accommodation. It's a roll-out mat on the floor with a mosquito net and a pillow kind of thing, and squat toilets and that kind of thing. So you do get a bit of both, but you do get to return back to luxury at the end of the trip. And then the other question here was, will there be a level 5 talk? Yeah, I'm thinking about it actually, because I just did the Peaks of the Balkans trek, and I think it would be really great to do a similar thing, because that's a really great level 5. I've been there myself, so I'll talk to Rowan and we'll see if we can put something together. Bye, Anna. Thank you so much. Oh, yes, Pippa, that's a great reminder. And a level 4 and a level 3. We'll do one for each of them. Pippa's going to host next month, and she's actually meeting with the local team for Mount Kilimanjaro. She's summited Mount Kilimanjaro twice, so she's going to she's going to do a trek about that. So look out in your emails, and yes, bottled water is provided throughout the tour. All right. Any other questions before I let you get back to your evening? All right. Well, thank you, Rowan, Julie, Sompet, Stephanie and Michelle, and everyone else for joining, and Pippa as well for your support in the wings, my wing woman. Have a wonderful evening, and yeah, you know where we are if you would like to chat more about Northern Laos. All right. Thank you so much, everyone.
Bye.
Goodbye, everyone.
Bye.